If you ask fans of Game of Thrones to pinpoint their favorite part about this critically acclaimed fantasy drama series, you'll probably be met with a few minutes of silence. Silence not because it's difficult to find a good moment, but rather because there are too many to choose from. Whether it's the high-action plot, the seemingly preordained demise of every character that you love, or its classic one-liners,
there's no cure for being a
Game of Thrones is a must-see series which has crept into just about everyone's household. And as the show's 8th and final season looms on the horizon, fans have already started compiling together a list of theories regarding what may happen in the show's last hurrah. And today, we're taking a look at some theories that we think actually hold some value. I'm Kyle with Wicked Binge, and these are Game of Thrones Season 8 theories that might actually be true. The 7 deadly sins and their relationship to the series' end. By far, one of the most interesting and controversial theories to surface regarding Game of Thrones' final season is that the characters and houses represent the 7 deadly sins, and that the Night King actually represents a divine desire to purge the world of sin. It's a lot to digest, but let's take a look at how some people came up with this idea. The theory actually comes from Reddit user LobCity414, who did a great job of breaking everything down. They start by establishing a clear parallel between the major houses in the show and the 7 deadly sins, so let's take a look. The members of House Tyrell are considered akin to the deadly sin of greed, because of the family's seemingly compulsive obsession with power, something which sadly led to their downfall.
I wanted to know it was me.
Similarly, the Baratheon household can be a representation of the deadly sin rage. Without even mentioning the house's motto, ours is the Fury, well, I guess I just did. The family is seen to be generally hot-tempered. The Targaryens represent envy. Envy is defined as being resentful over what someone else has or their luck. What Daenerys, as well as her brother Viserys envy, of course, is the Iron Throne.
A crown for a king.
An envy that may indeed blossom within Jon Snow once he realizes his lineage. House Martell represents gluttony, essentially an overindulgence in some basic instinct, be it eating or sex or even violence. As we see with Oberyn and Illyria, the house has a reputation to overindulge in sex and debauchery. House Frey represents sloth. Walder Frey, one of the most grotesque characters on the show, is the perfect embodiment of sloth. Made up of seemingly incompetent, lazy idiots, their army relies on their lucky location. Even Jaime berates the Frey's lazy military.
I don't give a rap.
And as some people have pointed out, the Ironborn seem to have a more important role on the show than the Freys. And if that's the case, they also perfectly embody the deadly sin of sloth as well, as their way of life is built on taking instead of working. Their house motto being, "We do not sow."
We do not sow. We are ironborn.
House Lannister embodies lust. One could argue Tyrion's tendencies reflect this at times, but it's obviously most noticeable in Jaime and Cersei's incestuous relationship. Not to mention how selfish and inconsiderate the house is to outsiders, traits that are often associated with lust. And most of House Lannister's problems can be traced back to the lust that controls Jaime and Cersei's relationship. Which brings us to House Stark, the obvious house of pride. The most noble house out there, it's hard to attribute them with a deadly sin. But if there was one, it would be pride.
The king in the north!
The house's stubbornness, bordering at times on pig-headedness, can be associated with pride. After all, in the north, they live by the saying, "Our way is the old way." Having established the similarities between the houses and the 7 deadly sins, the concept of the need for a purge comes from the presence of the White Walkers. After all, it makes sense that if the families represent the 7 deadly sins, then naturally, the White Walkers are there to cleanse the world of sin, right? With that said, you can begin to see the White Walkers as ordained messengers sent to rid Earth of evil as opposed to them being the antagonists in the series. Given that the series is known for crushing the expectations of die-hard fans, it may come as no surprise that all the major characters are wiped out from the world in true sin atonement fashion. It's quite a theory to say the least. Melisandre will return with an army. Another theory which holds some decent weight to it is that Melisandre will join in on the action in the series' 8th season in a big way. In Season 7, the Red Priestess made a declaration to Varys that she was going to embark on a journey across to Volantis. She also stated that she will come back, as she has to die in this country just like Varys.
My lady.
I have to die in this strange country. just like you.
As we know, Melisandre, in her capacity as a Red Priestess, is affiliated with groups in distant lands who follow the same religion. Recently in the series, viewers were introduced to Kinvara, a Red Priestess and follower of Reginald, who is based in Volantis. The theory suggests that if Melisandre, a Red Priestess, meets up with the followers of Reginald in Volantis, she might not come back to fight the war alone. Don't be surprised if we see Kinvara and Melisandre join forces to raise an army in Season 8. Ned Stark might make a return. As weird, unlikely, and quite frankly impossible to believe as this may sound, there is a theory going around that Ned Stark will be returning in Season 8 of the series. But how could this be? Fans clearly saw when Ned's head was cleaved off and mounted on a spike in King's Landing. Could Ned be returning from the dead? Well, not quite. It must be stated, however, that characters in the series have a tendency to magically reappear from what was assumed to be death, coming back to fight again. How far-fetched would it be if we told you that what you thought was Ned's head being cleanly shaved off was someone else's? According to Alexander Snow of ASOIAF.com, Jaqen H'ghar of the Faceless Men made a pact with Varys to take Ned's place during his execution. Ned needed to escape imprisonment and keep an extremely low profile while he traveled from Westeros so that he goes undetected and undiscovered. For all we know, Ned's just waiting to jump out of the bushes and yell surprise. Then again, maybe this is just wishful thinking. Arya becomes Littlefinger. News tends to spread very quickly in Westeros, like in most places in the world. Once something controversial or interesting happens to someone, you can guarantee that the world will be on alert in no time. That said, it may be possible that word of Littlefinger's demise at the hands of Arya hasn't gotten to the south of Westeros yet.
You saw me.
I see quite a lot now.
If Arya can disguise herself as Littlefinger in order to infiltrate King's Landing, she would be closer to her goals of assassinating her enemies in the south. The theory of a Littlefinger disguised Arya isn't a far stretch. Remember, Arya has done this in the past with Walder Frey.
The last thing you're ever going to see is a Stark smiling down at you as you die.
Plus, it would be in keeping with advancing her goals and would also make great television. Irrespective of the fact that Littlefinger isn't exactly welcomed with open arms in King's Landing, he does stand a better shot getting in than Arya, so why not take the risk? Bran, crown me the Night King. And the Night King is, drumroll please, Bran. Excited? Did you see this coming? Surely you must have had some idea. The notion that Bran is going to be revealed as the Night King is a theory which quite a few people swear by and believe will be shown in the series' final season. Might seem pretty odd given that there's hardly any evidence to support such a claim, but others seem to think otherwise. The first point of similarity between Bran and the Night King is the way in which they dress. Apparently, the button-up shirts are a sure sign that Bran is destined to be chosen as the Night King. Some fans also reference the man who was used by the children in the forest to make the first ever White Walker. This man is widely believed to have been from the Stark family. Therefore, it comes as no surprise that Bran might be next in line for some interesting events in his life. Guess we'll just have to wait and see. Sam is revealed as the Promised Prince. Now this one's a bit of a kicker. We start this theory off with a historical reference to the original book, A Song of Ice and Fire by George R.R. Martin.
I'm tired of reading about the achievements of better men.
In this novel, a prophecy is made about the legendary Azor Ahai, someone who fought against the darkness with a red sword, encouraging others to follow in his stead, armed with his prized sword Lightbringer. This is what was prophesied. When the red star bleeds and the darkness gathers, Azor Ahai shall be born again amid smoke and salt to wake dragons out of stone. Quite poetic. Well, the theory goes like this. Sam might be a Targaryen, specifically the son of Aelia Martell and Rhaegar Targaryen. The interesting part is that it's a secret. After all, Rhaegar annulled his marriage. The last thing he'd want is a constant reminder of what he feels to be a huge mistake he once made. Varys then smuggles Sam away to the Tarleys. To tie the historical reference and Samwell Tarly together, it's believed that Sam is the prophesized prince who will lead the people out of darkness. What do you think? Cersei will meet her end at the hands of her own brother. Game of Thrones fans know that death and murder is always in the cards. Still, Jaime murdering Cersei would be incredibly shocking.
And that would be treason.
Treason?
Disobeying your queen's command, fighting with her enemies, what would you call it?
Then again, it might not be such a surprise. At the end of season 7, after Cersei admits to Jaime that she intends to betray Daenerys and Jon, Jaime decides to part ways, heading north. In doing so, Jaime indicates that the two are now on opposing sides. In the face of an inevitable war in which two siblings are pitted against each other, Jaime might have to meet his sister on the battlefield. Interestingly enough, her death had been prophesized several years earlier. A seer by the name of Maggie the Frog prophesized about Cersei when she was younger. The seer claimed that not only would Cersei see all her children die before her life was over, she would also be murdered. How fitting would it be to die at the hands of her own sibling? But what do you think? These theories are all extremely interesting and may pan out in the 8th season, but at the end of the day, they are just speculation. The only thing that we know for sure is that we can't wait for season 8. What theories about the show's final season do you have? Let us know in the comments section below. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get notifications whenever we upload. But most importantly, stay wicked.